John Oations, and welcome to our year-end edition of Schooling Around. We covered a lot of activity in our school district this year, from a change of superintendents to a change in plans for an international dorm. We learned a lot about our special education programs. We saw our robotics team go to first world competition. Our band and orchestra went to New York City, and our choir to Disney World. More after this. Earlier this year, we spent some time focusing on special education. Denise Sweet is our Assistant Superintendent of Student Services. She gave us an overview of special ed.
I believe our foundation here in Oxford is that all students are general education students. Some of them just need specially designed instruction. So our basis is all students start in general education, and then we work up the continuum of special education services from there. So we have services, a full continuum. We have students that just need speech therapy. So they're in general education all day, and a speech therapist or an occupational therapist comes and gets them and works on specific skill development for whatever time frame they need, 30 minutes once a week.
So they attend regular classes
Right.
like a lot of the other kids?
So they're immersed totally in the general education curriculum and just get some additional support in speech or occupational or physical therapy.
Right.
Then as you kind of move up the ladder of support, we have students that receive resource room support. So they have been identified as a student with a disability, a mild disability, maybe in reading or math, and we have special education teachers that go into the general education setting and support students that way, co-teach. And we have that at all levels, elementary, middle school, and high school.
So, and those kids too then go through the regular classes and regular classrooms with a little boost here and there based on what their issues are.
Correct. So they participate fully in the general education curriculum and get that boost in reading or math or writing, whatever their area, their weakness is. Then we have students that those special education teachers come and will pull out a small group of students, take them back to their special education classroom and deliver direct instruction. Maybe they're a little bit further behind in reading or math or writing, and we're going to work with a small group of students on specific goals to try to remediate those issues. From there, as you kind of continue up to more restrictive, we have self-contained categorical programs for students that have cognitive impairment, are autistic, and those students spend the majority of their day in special education, and then they're mainstreamed out into general ed for art, gym, music. They may go to lunch and recess with their peers. They may go to general education and get with a paraeducator for a reading group or a science experiment, something like that. But they spend the majority of their day in special education.
She explains the expanded role in Michigan.
Michigan and a few other states then write their own governing laws that we have to work in conjunction with. So we have Michigan law and federal law. An example of that is the federal law says that we provide services for students 3 through 21. Michigan says their law says we provide services for students birth through 26. So here in Michigan, we follow what's more restrictive and provide services birth through 26, where Ohio, Texas, California, they only provide services 3 through 21. So
Either way, that's a lot of responsibility, isn't
yes.
it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So here in Oxford, besides those categorical programs, we also have a program for babies, a birth to 3 program, and that's more of a home-based program. Our teachers, our therapists go out to the home and work with moms to help them work with their their babies that are showing some delays. And then we also have an 18 to 26-year-old program that's housed at our high school, and that's for students who did not get a diploma, who have significant disabilities, and that program we work to help transition them out into the community. We may be volunteering at Fish, we have students that work at the mall, we have students that work at the car wash in Lake Orion. So we're trying to get those students out in the community.
This program is laid out a little differently from some of the others.
Correct. Not every building has the same programs. Every building has resource rooms because the majority of the students that we service have a mild disability. They're learning disabled, they have attention deficit, they're speech and language impaired. So we have resource rooms in every building. At Clear Lake, we have our program for cognitively impaired students. So we have a self-contained program, a teacher, 3 parapros, and about 9 students. Those students have significant impairments. They have speech and language impairments, cognitive impairments, emotional needs. That's at Clear Lake. At Leonard, we have our special ed preschool program. So we include students in the GSRP preschool. We work on goals and objectives, most on language development to try to get kids ready for kindergarten. At Lakeville, we have 2 classrooms for students on the autism spectrum disorder.
Crossroads for Youth School is also a part of the program.
So Crossroads for Youth is, it's called a Child Caring Institute, and the students there are placed through the court system. So for one of 2 reasons, either they're adjudicated, so they've done something bad, they've, when I look at it, it seems to me that they're truant, they're incorrigible, those types of issues that they've been in the court system, and the court system says, you're going to go and do the Crossroads for Youth program.
Right.
And so there's those students, and then there's students that are placed there through DHS, the Department of Human Services, and those are foster care children. There is no foster care family to take them.
Wow.
So they live at Crossroads for Youth, and Crossroads for Youth is their family. So because Crossroads for Youth is within the Oxford School District boundaries, we have a school there and we educate those students. So we currently have all the teachers are special education certified. We have a principal, a social worker, and a psychologist.
Denise shared some of the things she likes about her job.
I love when I see a classroom of students and there's 5 or 6 or 10 special education students in there, and you or I don't know who they are because they look just like everybody else. And those are the things that are satisfying to me.
Next, special ed to a special group after this. Special ed teacher Amy Hart has a special responsibility. She has the 0 through 3 age group. We asked her how she deals with parents who find out they're having a special needs child.
Oh, right away. So what happens is I'll either get a referral from through fax or email or a phone call, and I usually get the parents' name and phone numbers, usually what I get, along with any other information they have about the child. And I try to call that parent as soon as possible and talk to them about who I am, what I do in the district, and just see if they're interested in getting an evaluation done. It really is a service that we provide where the family has to be behind it 100%.
Right.
Because I do home visits, I offer play groups to some of the older students, and I can't really do anything without the parent support. And the whole idea behind our service is helping and supporting that family, that mom and dad or grandma or grandpa, whoever the primary caregivers are in that child's life, to reach a more developmentally appropriate milestone. So through evaluations, we find out where the child may have a deficit, and we make outcomes with the family based on where that child needs the most support, whether it's speech and language, fine motor skills, gross motor skills, a combination. There might be some cognitive concerns. So we really work with the family to develop goals for that student through the evaluation and the IFSP or IEP process. And then after that's, the paperwork part is done, then we provide direct service to that family.
And what about the emotion of this situation?
It's hard. Every situation is different. Every family is different. And even within the family, the mom and the dad, or whoever the primary caregivers are, may have a different perspective or attitude toward what's going on. So I think it's really important to work really closely with the family, find out how they feel about it. If they have a positive attitude about it already, really jumping on board with that and moving forward as quickly as possible, I think is very important, because every child, I feel, is just such a blessing and just such a miracle, that I really think it's important that parents view their child as a child first, and then let us be a part of the process of helping your child meet milestones. And if the family has either more of a negative attitude or a stigma attached to what's going on, or they're just really down about it, I think it's important to provide that family with a lot of resources, a lot of support, opening the door to phone conversations, text message, whatever that family needs, leading them in the right direction if there are support groups for what's going on.
Next, ages 3 to 5 in Leonard. Teacher Megan Rayner is in charge of the 3 to 5 years special education program at Leonard Elementary. She says communication skills are crucial.
My goal is that they would all be communicating at least on a 1 to 2 word phrase. Some of my students are communicating with 3 to 4 word phrases, but we're working on articulation, which means working on their speech sounds and how they're producing words, because they're not producing them correctly and it's making them very difficult to understand. So they might say a 4 or 5 word phrase and you might be able to pick out 1 word from that, which that is where technology is very helpful also, because they can use those communication symbols to help other people understand what they're saying. Even though they have a lot of language, the sounds that they're producing are not correct, so it makes them very difficult to understand.
We asked Megan how she stays organized with such a wide range of needs.
Well, they all have goals and objectives that are written for them. So for me, I have like a spreadsheet that has all of their goals that I'm working on, plus all of the goals that the OT and PT and speech pathologist are documenting on. And so for me, that gives me a quick reference. I can quickly look down and say, okay, these 3 kids are working on similar goals, so I'm going to plan this activity to target that goal, and then I can document their progress on it. And then, so during their free play time, that's when I spend a lot of time saying, okay, I'm going to pull these 3 kids and we're going to work on this activity because they are targeting this goal. And then I'll pull these 2 kids and work on this because they're targeting that goal. But I have it all on a spreadsheet that then I can document in terms of what I saw. Have they made progress from September till now, and what does that progress look like?
So what is the biggest challenge with this age group?
Probably the social and behavior. A lot of times because they're delayed for their age, if they're a 3-year-old, they might be functioning at a 1 or 1.5-year-old level. So you're dealing with all of those, social, they don't know how to interact socially. They don't know how to play even sometimes. So teaching them some of those basic skills just to function in a preschool setting.
What made you decide this was for you?
When I was in high school, my mom worked in preschool for a long time, most of my childhood that I remember, and the program that she was working in was included with a special education program, preschoolers. And so I would go in and volunteer in her classroom. And just, I think working with those kids at that time, I always knew I wanted to be a teacher, but that kind of gave me, you know, experience with special needs kids and that desire to work with that population.
A change at the top as our kids try to go to the top. When we continue.
Have you liked us on Facebook yet? If not, what are you waiting for? Just go to your Facebook page, go to the search bar, and type in Oxford Community Television.
Dr. William Skilling was our superintendent at the beginning of the year. He announced that a bout with prostate cancer gave him a different outlook on life and what he wanted to do with his. So he said he wanted to resign later in the year. Deputy Superintendent Tim Throne would eventually take over. Meanwhile, the topic of an international dormitory nearby housing around 200 Chinese students didn't set well with some Oxford residents or the Planning Commission. Between parent objections and difficult building requirements, the Wei Ming organization decided to table the idea for now. In the area of student competition, our Business Professionals of America groups went to nationals, with the broadcasting team being one of them. And Dan Balsley's Auto Tech team went to AAA Ford. Dan's used to picking up trophies at that event. 2015 was a little different.
Each of the 10 cars at the competition are bugged identically, and they're 10 top qualifying schools that are in the state finals, and they have 90 minutes to find these faults and make those repairs in the least amount of time. So my guys are off to a good start, and in the first 7 minutes have already found 3 of these bugs. It turns out there were 7 of them this year. By about 15 minutes they'd found 4 of them, so they're making good progress. And then from the stands where I'm watching, I could see the tempo change a little bit and things slowed down, and the guys looked a little bit more discouraged. And I found out later on that a part broke and they weren't able to replace that part, so that kind of changed the outcome of the competition. We weren't able to win the competition with a broken part, and there were no replacement parts for this. So we ended up in 6th place, and they still got scholarship offers from a number of different schools. We got a $1,000 scholarship from Ohio Tech.
UNOH.
It was another $1,000, and Lincoln.
I think that was a little bit more, maybe 5,000.
So we still ended up with some scholarship offers and still ended up 6th in the state.
Dan and the boys went on to the mites competition later, with one of the kids taking 3rd in the state. The topic of human trafficking was also part of our program. More after this.
Canine Stray Rescue is Oxford's own local dog rescue. Each year they take in hundreds of dogs and bring them into suitable homes. A certified nonprofit organization, Canine Dog Rescue strives to give pound dogs a new leash on life. To donate, adopt, or even volunteer, call them at 248-628-0435 or go to their website, dogsaver.org, and click on the Canine Stray Rescue League link.
Human trafficking involves the illegal use of minors in many things, including prostitution. Our Michigan Attorney General, Bill Schuette, encouraged us to get the word out so we could be on the lookout for this. We featured the testimony of a young woman who had been involved and was suffering the consequences.
I stand here today, should I recall the time that he headbutted me in my face and broke my nose? Should I recall the time that he used me as a human batting ram into the side of a vehicle to where I passed out? Should I recall the time that when I told him I didn't want to do it anymore, he chased me down the street and beat me and dragged me back by my hair into the house to continue to beat me? Then ultimately yelled and screamed and told me I wasn't nothing but a useless ass hoe and I owed him. I'm standing here today to take a stand for the women, not only for myself, but for the women that are involved, the other victims involved in my case. It's not just me. I'm standing here today to raise my voice for all the women that have fallen through cracks. I have been told by particular people in certain entities, and I won't name any names just for their privacy, I'm sorry we have failed you. By a show of hands, can anybody in here raise their hand and tell me what it's like to be afraid to go to sleep because you're afraid of your nightmares? I've advocated for myself for the past 2.5 years. Trying to get justice, trying to get closure. And it's brought me to this point that I'm here today, crying out for the help. When I called people, please, begging, crying on the phone, when is this gonna end? I get told I'm having a bad day. 8.5 years of my life isn't a bad day. There's not even a word for a bad day for me. And as you walk out of this building today, I just want you to think and walk in my shoes for a brief moment as you walk to your vehicles and you have to scan the parking lot to see if your trafficker has followed you here today. And if today may be the last day you even speak or see anybody. I'm fighting for myself. I'm fighting for the other women. Yes, there are laws in place, but none of those laws protect us.
It turns out that the man in question was later arrested. We had the benefit of a panel of experts to talk about this subject, including members of the FBI and state police. Next, on a happier note, we hire a new athletic director and our musicians do some traveling. Stick around.
Take off your hat, throw it in the corner. Take off your hat, throw it in the corner. Take off your hat, throw it in the corner. I don't see why. Stay a little longer. I'm talking about Zuzu. Woo! Zuzu, that's who. And the oh yeah! Come on down. Stay a little longer.
We hired a new athletic director this year. Cole Andrews comes to us from Frankenmuth. He says this job is about more than setting up game schedules.
Yeah, it's one of those misunderstood jobs, certainly as an administrator. You know, they see you at games, standing at games, and they think you do a little scheduling. But yeah, there's a lot that entails this job. It's a lot of late nights, and you have to have an understanding wife. So certainly my wife is one of those people that understands I'm going to be gone a lot and being at games late. You're obviously putting out fires throughout the day, and
you're involved in hiring and firing of
people.
and
Hiring and hopefully not firing too much. But yeah, you know, mentoring is kind of the way I look at it. Trying to mentor some of our coaches and doing things the Oxford way, in my opinion. But yeah, hiring and firing and being in that process of mentoring from year one to hopefully year whatever they're here for. So there's a lot of work that goes into it. It's a stressful job, but I always try to do what's best for the kids. And you know, the day that I don't do that anymore is the day that you won't see me here anymore.
New Athletic Director Cole Andrews. Our high school musicians hit the road this year. Our band and orchestra went to New York City, our choir to Disney World. Band director Jim Gibbons tells us about their experience.
We had a great trip. We had the band and orchestra both went. We had the orchestra performed at St. Paul the Apostle Church. Beautiful Catholic church right next to Lincoln Center. Had an outstanding performance in the church. The band performed at the Statue of Liberty for people literally from all over the world. We had tons and tons of folks who were videoing our performance who had nothing to do with our group or with Oxford. And as I was conducting, and then when I got off the podium and let the drum majors conduct, I got to hear people talking, and I heard Spanish, I heard Japanese, I heard Chinese, I heard French, I heard German, people who were watching our performance. So literally people from all over the world heard our band and heard that performance, and so I was very proud of the students. We saw 2 great Broadway shows. They got a chance to tour the city and experience the city. Probably one of the biggest historical highlights of the trip is we got to spend time at the 9/11 Memorial and Museum. So kids got to get kind of more of a first-hand look at the something historical that has changed the way we live today, and got to experience a very powerful museum. And I think that from an educational standpoint, that's something that can't be duplicated in Oxford. Same with the performance opportunities that we had and for the people that we performed for.
I heard there was something really unexpected.
Something extremely unexpected right after we finished our performance of the Statue of Liberty. I happened to be on the phone, and I noticed that SWAT, along with NYPD and the Park Police, were deploying to the front of the statue because someone had called in a bomb threat. And this is the first time, I think, at least in several years, that they've had to evacuate the statue for the Liberty Island for something like this. And so in about 5 minutes, they rounded up 2,700 people that were on the island and put us on 2 different ferries. We had all of our kids. I got the parents to push everybody to the front of the line, so we got on the ferry we needed to be on and get our equipment on the ferry, and made for a great story. We had to sit out on a ferry in the river for an hour while they cleared the island, and then they eventually didn't let people back on. They sent us back to the dock where we got on boarded the boat to go to Liberty Island, and we were seeing on the phones how why we had been evacuated, that there had been a bomb threat called in. So we were following on the internet, CNN and MSN and Fox News and all that, so we could see that, oh, we're part of a national story here.
Finally, 23 members of our high school choir headed for Disney World. Choir director Christopher Card explains.
Well, what we had the opportunity to do is go perform at Disney at what they call their Candlelight Processional. It's been a tradition that's been going on in Disney since 1959. We got to be part of that tradition. They perform 3 times a night in a way that draws thousands of people to an outdoor theater to hear traditional Christmas music performed. And we had the honor of auditioning and being selected to perform at Epcot this Candlelight Processional with a 50-piece orchestra, the Voices of Liberty, and celebrity narrator Neil Patrick Harris.
Charity Justine Garner was part of that elite group. She shares her thoughts.
It was amazing. The experience was so just mind-blowing to be a part of. Seeing thousands of people out there, for each performance, and it was so cool to be able to perform for them.
Did you get to meet Neil Patrick Harris?
We didn't get to meet him, but he kind of waved to us whenever he came on stage and everything, just a little generic wave, but it made everyone's day.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really
So that put you in the Christmas spirit, I suppose, huh?
For sure. It was great.
What an honor. What a year. May 2016 be a great year for you. Thanks to Kyle Snage at the controls, Dan Zweiss at the editing desk, and you for watching. This is Oxford Community Television, keeping it local.